Hi, Room 101. Ms. Vaughn here. Chapter 3, Part 1. Escape. Remember, I had asked you to think about who would escape. See if your predictions were correct. The barn was very large. It was very old. It smelled of hay, and it smelled of manure. It smelled of the perspiration of tired horses and the wonderful sweet breath of patient cows. It often had sort of a peaceful smell, as though nothing bad could happen ever again in the world. It smelled of grain and of harness dressing and of axle grease and of rubber boots and new rope. And whenever the cat was given a fish head to eat, the barn would smell of fish. But mostly it smelled of hay, for there was always hay in the great loft up overhead. And there was always hay perched, always hay being pitched down to the cows and the horses and to the sheep. The barn was pleasantly warm in winter when the animals spent most of their time indoors, and it was pleasantly cool in the summer when the big doors stood wide open to the breeze. The barn had stalls on the main floor for the work horses, tie-ups on the main floor for the cows, a sheepfold down below for the sheep, a pig pen down below for Wilbur, and it was full of all sorts of things that you find in barns. Ladders, grindstones, pitchforks, monkey wrenches, scythes, lawn mowers, snow shovels, axe handles, milk pails, water buckets, empty grain sacks, and rusty rat traps. It was the kind of barn that swallows like to build their nest in. It was the kind of barn that children like to play in. And the whole thing was owned by Fern's uncle, Mr. Homer L. Zuckerman. Wilbur's new home was in the lower part of the barn, directly underneath the cows. Mr. Zuckerman knew that a manure pile is a good place to keep a young pig. Pigs need warmth, and it was warm and comfortable down there in the barn cellar on the south side. Fern came almost every day to visit him. This is a picture of his. Fern sat on an old milking stool that had been discarded, and she paced the stool in front of the sheepfold next to Wilbur's pen. Here she sat quietly during long afternoons, thinking and listening and watching Wilbur. The sheep soon got to know her and trust her. So did the geese who lived with the sheep. All the animals trusted her. She was so quiet and friendly. Mr. Zuckerman did not allow her to take Wilbur out, and he did not allow her to get into the pig pen. This is a picture right here of Fern. And the sheep and the geese. But Mr. Zuckerman did tell Fern that she could sit on the stool and watch Wilbur as long as she wanted to. It made her happy just to be near the pig, and it made Wilbur happy to know she was sitting there, right outside his pen. But he never had any fun. No walks, no rides, no swims. I feel like that a little now. One afternoon in June, when Wilbur was almost 2 months old, he wandered out into his small yard outside the barn. Fern had not arrived for her usual visit. Wilbur stood in the sun, feeling lonely and bored. "Oh, there's never anything to do around here," he thought. He walked slowly to his food trough and sniffed to see if anything had been overlooked at lunch. He found a small strip of potato skin and ate it. His back sort of itched, so he leaned against the fence and rubbed against the boards. When he tired of this, he walked indoors, climbed to the top of the manure pile, and sat down. He didn't feel like going to sleep. He didn't feel like digging. He was tired of standing still, and he was tired of lying down. "Oh, I'm less than 2 months old, and I'm just tired of living," he said. He walked out to the yard again. "When I'm out here, there's no place to go but in. And when I'm indoors, there's no place to go but out in the yard." "That's where you're wrong, my friend," said a voice. Wilbur looked through the fence and saw the goose standing there. "You don't have to stay in that dirty little yard. One of the boards is loose. Push on it. Push, and come on out." What? Say it slower." At the risk of repeating myself," said the goose, "I suggest that you come on out. It's wonderful out here." Did you say a board was loose?" That I did, said the goose. Wilbur walked up to the fence and saw that the goose was right. One board was loose. He put his head down, shut his eyes, and pushed. The board gave way. In a minute he had squeezed through the fence and was standing in the long grass outside his yard. The goose chuckled. "Well, how does it feel to be free?" "Oh, I like it," said Wilbur. "That is, well, I guess I like it." Actually, Wilbur felt queer to be outside his fence with nothing between him and the big world. "Well, where do you think I better go?" Anywhere you like, said the goose. "Go down through the orchard, root up the sod, go down through the garden, dig up the radishes, root up everything, eat grass, look for corn, look for oats, run all over, skip and dance, jump and prance, go down through the orchard and stroll in the woods. The world is a wonderful place when you're young." "I can see that," replied Wilbur. He gave a jump in the air, twirled, ran a few steps, stopped, looked all around, sniffed the smells of the afternoon, and then set off walking down the orchard, pausing in the shade of an apple tree. He put his strong snout into the ground, and he began pushing, digging, and rooting. He felt very happy. He had plowed up quite a piece of ground before anyone had noticed him. Mrs. Zuckerman was the first to see him. She saw him from the kitchen window, and she immediately shouted for the men. "Homer!" she cried. "Pigs out! Lurvy! Pigs out! Homer! Lurvy! Pigs out! He's down there under that apple tree." "Oh, no! Now the trouble starts," thought Wilbur. "Oh, now I'll catch it for sure." The goose heard the racket, and she too started hollering. "Run, run, run, downhill, make for the woods, the woods!" she shouted to Wilbur. "They'll never, never, never catch you in the woods." The cocker spaniel heard the commotion, and he ran out from the barn to join the chase. Mr. Zuckerman heard, and he came out from the machine shed where he was mending a tool. Lurvy, the hired man, heard the noise, and he came up from the asparagus patch where he was pulling weeds. Everybody walked toward Wilbur. Wilbur didn't know what to do. The woods seemed a long way off, and anyway, he had never been down there in the woods, and he wasn't sure he'd like it. "Get around behind him, Lurvy," said Mr. Zuckerman, "and drive him toward the barn. And take it easy now. Don't rush him. I'll go get a bucket of slops." Well, the news of Wilbur's escape spread rapidly among the animals on the place. Whenever any creature broke loose on Zuckerman's farm, the event was of great interest to the others. The goose shouted to the nearest cow that Wilbur was free, and soon all the cows knew. Then one of the cows told one of the sheep, and soon, yes, all the sheep knew. The lambs heard about it from their mothers. The horses in their stalls in the barn kind of pricked up their ears, and when they heard the goose hollering, and soon the horses had caught on to what was happening. "Wilbur's out," they said. Every animal stirred and lifted its head and became excited to know that one of its friends was no longer penned up or tied fast. Well, Wilbur didn't know what to do or which way to run. It seemed as though everybody was after him. Well, if this is what it's like to be free, I believe I'd rather be penned up in my own yard. The Cocker Spaniel was sneaking up on him from one side. Lurvy, the hired man, was sneaking up on him from the other side, and Mr. Zuckerman stood ready to head him off if he started for the garden. And now Mr. Zuckerman was coming toward him carrying a pail. This is really awful, thought Wilbur. Why doesn't Fern come? And he began to cry. Here's a picture of Mrs. Zuckerman and Mr. Zuckerman